That one unmuted. All right, here we go. First ever Coach's Corner at Amore Coffee. I have Coach Craig Schmidt with me here. He's the Henry Sibley Boys Swim and Dive coach, and I'm Bruce Karnick, the voice of Henry Sibley Diving. So naturally, the transition for doing this and starting this whole program was to have Greg be my first guest to recap the last season. But first, hi, Greg. How are you?
Hello. Good.
Good.
Doing great.
So tell me, what got you involved in coaching swimming?
Well, to make a long story short, I grew up in a hockey playing family, and a friend of mine in middle school invited me to join the swim team with him. And I thought, well, I liked swimming. I'd always taken swimming lessons, but I'd never competed. But I thought, well, it's a great way to get in shape for hockey. And so I got doing it, and I ended up liking it even more than playing hockey. So I converted to being a swimmer, the only one in my family, and I swam throughout high school, a little bit in college.
And how did that go over in the family? Were they okay with it?
Yeah, they were always open to
Okay.
that. My parents were good about that, letting them try what we would like to try, so I really appreciate that.
Awesome. So you moved to the area here, grew up in the area. What's your background with West St. Paul, Mendota Heights area?
Sure. Yeah, I went to the University of Minnesota.
Okay.
And then got a job at Sibley High School, and so I've been here ever since, 30 years.
Wow, awesome.
Yep.
Long time to be teaching, and obviously teaching science.
Yep.
So we'll touch on this later, but obviously with the expansion and the upgrades that are going to happen to the different schools around the area, I'm sure you're excited about the upgrades to the science department.
Yes, absolutely.
For one, but we're more here to talk about the swimming side of things. So let's talk quick about your assistant coaches, team captains. So who did you have this year that were involved that way?
Okay, well, my assistant coach is Spencer Hano, and he was actually a swimmer of mine for 6 years at Sibley, and then transitioned into being my assistant coach. So really appreciated having him all these years. So we've actually been a team for about 12 years now as coach and athlete, and so I rely heavily on Spencer for getting the practices started, because I have to come from the high school to the middle school to start practices, and he's great.
Awesome. And your team captains?
Captains this year, we had two captains, Connor Winkelhake and Ben Kirkwood.
Okay.
Great captains. They had to run captains practices, which is a little bit more challenging with swimming, getting the pool arranged and getting a lifeguard and getting a parent because of the liability issues. And they arranged all of that, got the guys into the water, and they lead our dry land portion of practice at the beginning of all of our practices. So we have our captains do quite a bit with our team.
Awesome. And Connor specifically, how long has he been swimming? What are his top events? Same thing with Ben.
Okay. Both Connor and Ben are relatively new to swimming. I mean, they were kind of like me, that they grew up liking swimming and taking swimming lessons, but it was really in middle school and in high school where they started to compete. Connor swims 100 breaststroke, finished 8th in the section, which was a really great accomplishment. Ben had a fantastic season as well. He's a 200, 500 swimmer, and did really, really well in it.
I've never understood the thought process of, I want to swim 20 laps in the pool as fast as I can, as being a distance swimmer. Now, I mean, in Boy Scouts, I swam, up at Tomahawk. That was like a 1 mile challenge in the lake.
Sure.
And, you're out in the lake, no life vest swimming. Obviously, there's, people in a boat right next to you to make sure nothing bad happens. And I remember going, oh my God, what did I sign myself up for? So what kind of challenges are there when you go to the swimming, a distance race like the 500?
Well, the key to any swimming event, then, of course, is the training that you put in.
Right.
So, for our practices, 1 mile is a good start to practice. We typically go 3-4 miles every practice.
Okay.
And so the key to swimming a 500 is just learning your pace for each 50.
Okay.
So we do many practices where we do intervals. They do 50s on 1 minute, and they have to keep track of the interval that they want to swim in a race. And just practice knowing what that feels like to swim that time over and over. There's 20 50s in a 500. So
right.
Just getting that feel of that pace.
Getting that muscle memory
down.
Because in a straight 50, which is just down and back, it's go. It's
That's right.
hammer and get it, get down there as quick as you can,
Yep.
get down his back, expend all your energy because you have time to recoup, before the next race, hopefully,
Right.
which obviously isn't always the case depending on what swimmers you have available for the particular meet. But with the 500, you can't do that.
Right.
I mean, you have to save energy to last 20 laps. So, think about that. It's the distance. I mean, you're swimming a lot
Yes.
in a 500.
Yeah, it's typically 5 to 6 minutes of
Right.
swimming.
Of straight swimming. And I know I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, broadcast complete. Why did it say that now? Really? I better check that.
Okay.
That's the key to this
Timer.
whole thing is, does it stay going? I'm trying to see if it ended here, and I don't know. This says go live on here, so evidently we have to go back to going live. That's right. Well, the nice thing is I am recording it too,
Okay.
so we may not be able to do a live broadcast and may just have to do a recorded thing.
Okay.
But it should still be recording at least. Yep. Well, at least we got the recording going anyway. All right, so sorry about that technical little glitch there. We're back hopefully live online. All right, now, as far as the season is concerned, six or eight, like regular season
We have
meets.
6 dual meets.
6 dual meets.
And then we have 2 invitationals. that we
Okay.
go to.
So as the teams that are in the conference are, for as far as your dual meets.
Right.
Who are the teams in the conference?
So St. Thomas Academy,
Okay.
Sibley, Hastings, North St. Paul, South St. Paul, and Tartan.
All right, and obviously, with most of the sports in the area, St. Thomas is a powerhouse when it comes to stuff like that. I know Hastings has got a great swimming program.
Yep. Yes, they do.
Tartan came
Well,
on.
actually, yeah, they did. Sibley actually is very, very strong as well.
Sibley's another strong one, but Tartan this year, even though they were small, had a pretty good showing in our dual meet.
Yeah.
Which I was impressed because they probably have 15 guys.
Yeah, yeah, but they swam really well.
Yep.
And have some really quality swimmers. So
Which is, I mean, good for them as far as the size of with the smaller team having a good showing.
yeah,
The concern, obviously, in the conference is they don't have the depth coming in.
Right.
So, we hope that they continue to have a great program and continue to recruit people. What are your recruiting challenges here?
well, now we can't officially recruit, but when you say recruit, you mean coming from our own population of schools.
Right. When I say recruit, I mean, when you see a kid walking down the hall, hey, did you ever think about
Right,
joining swimming?
right, exactly.
Or your other swimmers going, hey man, I think you'd be really good at swimming. You should come. It's really fun.
Right.
So I mean, you can't recruit outside
Right.
the school. I get that, but so when I use the term recruit, I mean you have to recruit in the school.
Absolutely, there's no doubt
You
about
have to talk about it. You have to get people involved. You have to say, hey, come check us out.
Yeah.
And you have to find kids. And we had a lot of really young, like strong
We did.
7th
We
and
did.
8th graders this year, which is cool for me because I get to see these guys, having Brenton swimming. I get to see all these kids coming up and being around the team for 5 years now.
Yep.
I see all these kids, and I was really impressed with the young guys that we have. So when it comes to the recruiting,
Right.
question, what kind of struggles do you have?
Well, the key to recruiting is the boys recruiting other boys, getting their friends to come out. Because I only have limited contact with students at the middle school level. We really need middle school kids to come out so they can get some years under their belt before they're in the high school. One of the challenges that we currently have a very old pool. It's in one middle school at the very northern part of the district, so that we don't have a lot of visibility.
Right.
I teach at the high school, and there's many students who don't even realize we have a swim team. So we
Which
have
makes sense.
Yeah. No, there's not a pool. They don't come across it. They don't see that aspect.
And there's 3 middle schools or 2?
There's 2 middle
Two middle
schools.
schools. That's
Yep.
right, because it's Friendly and then Heritage.
Heritage, yep.
And the pool's obviously at Heritage.
Yep.
How old is the pool?
Well, I think it was built in '69, so 50 years. So it's been around.
So it's been there a long
Yep,
time.
Yep.
Technology obviously is changing.
Yep.
And then the new pool, let's go with the natural segue into the new pool. I've got a graphic that I managed to pull down from the internet today regarding the layout of the pool. Not the pool, I'm saying the layout of the grounds at Henry Sibley High School. As many people know, the voters passed a referendum to spend some money on our schools, and of that, it's like about 117 million, I think, was the spending package for upgrading the schools. We talked briefly about the upgrades to the school itself. One of them to be, the new science wing, I guess is what you can call it. And in looking for information regarding the pool this morning, I saw all sorts of great information online. I think it was isd197.org, but I don't remember the link. And actually at the bottom of the screen right now, you guys can see that, the link up there, that talks about all the different things and lots of great different visualizations you can have that are concepts of the front of the school, the new science wing, the new gym, stuff like that. But here, looking at from the pool specific side of things, where's the pool going to be located?
Okay, so the pool will be between Delaware Avenue and the school.
Okay.
Most people are familiar with the parking lot that's on the side of the school there. And
that's the one that's kind of down hidden that you really can't see unless you're coming up Delaware.
That's right.
From 62/110.
That's right. And it doesn't look like there's a lot of space there, but there actually is. And so the pool will be tucked right in there, which is, you see pulling it up on the visual there. There probably will not be a physical connection to the school. That turned out to be a little bit too expensive, so it'll be actually a separated building from the school.
So in the zoomed in picture where it says pool edition there, that little L that kicks out to the top, it's not going to be there. And in discussions off camera and previously during the season, didn't you say something about new fiber optics that were just put in, or new communication equipment basically that was buried there, and they weren't going to move it because it was too expensive?
Right, yeah, we were somewhat limited on what could be done. But another advantage of having a detached building is that it can be more available for community use during the school day.
Right.
And so they don't have to have concerns of non-high school people entering the building. They can go and use the pool and not have any of the security issues that might be a concern if they were coming into the building.
Yeah, because that was going to be a question that I had with. Originally we talked about it was going to be detached, and then I saw the graphic hadn't been updated, so I'm going, okay, is this the most current?
Yeah.
Does this show that, yes, it's going to be attached? How are they going to handle security? But with it being a fully detached building, even though it's still on school grounds, you don't have very far to go between the buildings and the pool, at 50 yards maybe?
Yeah, it wouldn't even be that long.
Yeah, so it's going to be a quick, like walk into your car in the parking lot thing.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Parking lot, speaking of which, as a parent, when you go to these other events like South St. Paul and the Grove and for Sibley events, the problem that you've got with those locations is they don't have very big parking lots.
Right.
The Grove does, but the Grove has a couple ice arenas attached, and swimming takes place in winter when hockey takes place, and there's always hockey going on because ice time is such a commodity in this area that their parking lots are always full. So it's a nightmare when it comes to parking. Advantage for us, we had that big old parking lot for the district office and the school, and then the one right when you drive in. So there's tons of parking available, and
in fact they're going to expand the parking on that side,
which is awesome.
I think they said there will be an additional 90 spots of parking. So.
And that's huge because even on a dual meet, if there was a concert going on at the school, for some reason, during a dual meet, there's still those 90 spaces might be all you need.
Yep.
And I know, again, having kids through the Sibley system, that parking gets to be kind of tight when it comes to concerts because those are big events.
Yep.
Events that you can have at the pool. Obviously, the pool is not built just for the swim team.
Right.
It's a community asset. What other things are going to take place at the pool?
Well, there's still a lot of discussions on this, but I certainly think there will be an expanded community ed swimming lesson program.
Okay.
We do have some swimming lessons offered through community ed, but I think they'll be able to expand that a lot more. I think they'll be able, with the detached building, they'll be able to attract younger parents with little children. There's actually swimming lessons from birth on up, so They'll have an
That's where I
opportunity.
started.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So I think there'll be a wide range, and there'll be community ed, water exercise. You could now have a competitive swim team program in the summers,
Like a club.
like a club, or one run through district ed, kind of like a sport camp, like the football and baseball teams run sports camp. We could do a swimming variety of that where they could train in the summer. Diving programs, we've had to kind of outsource our diving to a different facility because there wasn't enough room in our 6-lane pool with the diving boards that we have. So now we can run a diving program. So just a ton of opportunities for us.
Well, and the natural segue would be to go back to talking about the team, but we're going to hold off on that because the diving guys have come a long way there. So as far as the community aspect of and access to this pool, it's going to be there. It's not something that during the school season and when school's open, it's shut down. You can't get in. That's not going to be the case. Obviously, there will be reserved times if it's a FIED activity that needs the pool. So, maybe for that week, the pool's booked out for the school. You had mentioned a college was going to be utilizing it.
Concordia St. Paul is starting a women's swimming program.
Okay.
And so I think we have a 20-year arrangement with them.
20 years?
Yep, to use the pool as their home pool and their training facility.
Awesome.
And of course, they'll be contributing money to the cost of the pool, its operations. So I think it's a great program.
Now, do the college times, the season, does that match up with our girls' season as well then?
Yeah, the college season runs from October to about March, so it overlaps both the girls and the boys' season.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what time they arrange to have the college train, but I know that we'll still have our after-school slot for both the boys and the girls.
I would
teams.
think, being that it's built on school property and it's paid for by the residents of the area, that the priority is going to go to the school for scheduling, and then obviously Concordia might get an off time slot.
Yeah, it might be after we're done, 6 to 8. College students have the freedom to come in the middle of the day, so
exactly.
maybe they'll have a noon to 2 time slot.
And that's really the nice thing about having this building being its separate thing, is that you've got the flexibility to schedule things whenever.
Right.
Right now, just down the road, if we go to Heritage, you can't do that.
Right.
I can't just go in and swim during the middle of the school day and pay $6 or whatever it is to go swimming. So that's huge. I really think that's a huge thing there. Hosting larger meets. We just had sections.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, cool, we're going to Apple Valley.
Right.
This will be neat, This will be interesting to go to a totally new facility and go see how they have things, how they run things. And I got there and I was like, what? Because it's this tiny little, maybe 50 stall parking lot.
Right.
And the buses are parked on the road. And then there's cars that people had to walk. I bet some people walked a mile to get to there, to get into the conference thing. And then when I walked in, there had to have been 500 people inside,
it was
at
packed.
least.
Yep.
And there was 20 people deep, standing room only.
Yep.
This is for how many teams?
8 teams.
8 teams. So you get 8 teams. I mean, same thing with our conference relays. It doesn't get that crazy, but it's full.
It is full.
And I'm thinking, we could absolutely host this at our location.
Oh yeah.
So taking a look at the inside of the pool, so we'll transition over to that quick. Gotta hit my right buttons here. Talk about the inside of the pool, because obviously we talked about the parking, but when you need to get 500 spectators in there, you need to get 8 teams, and most conference teams are what, 10, 15 people?
15 to 20, yeah, closer to 20.
So if you're talking 20 swimmers, and then 5 coaches, timers, assistants, whatever the case may be, you're talking 25 people per team, so you're talking 200 people on that pool deck, including officials.
Yep.
Talk about what we've got on the screen now as far as the interior layout of the pool. So the top of the screen, obviously on the left side, is the main swimming deck, and it shows kind of the layout of the concessions, the bathrooms, the locker rooms, stuff like that.
So I'm glad you kept mentioning about 500 students or 500 spectators, because this pool has seating for 499 spectators. Plus, there's room above the seating for people to bring in, like camping chairs or standing room. So we could easily hold 500-600 spectators alone.
Okay.
So it's a great facility. What's nice is that the seating is all elevated, so you can see over the swimmers who are standing on the deck.
Now, how far elevated is it?
It's about, I think the first row of seating is about 4 feet high.
Okay, so 4 feet high. So when you're sitting, a normal, average 5-ish foot person is going to have about 6 feet height.
Yep.
So it's not quite the Grove for those people who have gone to see meets and even just gone to the Grove to swim in River of Heights. It's not quite that high. Or St. Thomas is another one where I think St. Thomas is almost like a 10-foot lift.
Yeah, it's quite high.
It's quite high. So you're talking about 4 feet, which isn't bad. And plus, again, front row seating, even unless you get someone like Ben who's 6 foot tall, you're still going to see over most of the swimmers.
Right.
All right. And then on the pool deck, what's going on there?
If you look at the pool, it's kind of a new concept in pools, which I think is great. It's called a stretch pool. So that pool actually is approximately 40 yards long, and a normal competitive pool is 25 yards. On that black line you see in the middle of the pool, that's a movable bulkhead. And so the configuration is shown there. The top of the screen is the starting end of the pool. And then below the black line would be a warm-up area, which is a great advantage for competitive swim meets. After a race, you want to be able to go somewhere and swim a little bit to get the lactic acid out of your muscles, or
cool down,
or warm up for an upcoming race. And so that, what I would call the bottom area of the pool, that's really not competitive area. So we could set up bleachers all around there. We could probably have all 8 teams or close to it be on bleachers at that lower part that isn't really blocking any view.
Okay.
And there'd be a lot of open sight lines for people.
Oh, so you can fit all 8? You think you could fit all 8 teams across the bottom?
And if not, we could put a set of teams on the right-hand side, which wouldn't block any viewing. So I think we'll be able to leave that whole left side open from swimmers, so people will really get a good view of the competition.
And that's awesome. And then when you're talking about that movable bulkhead, I know you said you went New Prague, was it, that you went and visited? And that's a bulkhead that's what, 8-10 feet wide?
Yep.
So you could even set starting blocks on that if need be. Because the depth, obviously, for starting, I know when I was in high school, you dove in the shallow end.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, it's one of those things like you learned how to properly dive into the pool off a starting block into 4 feet of water.
Yes.
It was dangerous.
It was a bad idea.
Okay. I mean, let's be real. It was a bad idea. It was a bad idea. But you didn't make that mistake twice.
Right.
If you screwed up, you did not make that mistake twice, because you learned quickly how bad that hurt. So now you're talking as far as the state high school league rules are. You have to have the starting blocks diving into deeper water. What is the depth of the end on the top of this pool, like for this picture?
Right. Well, and I'll just note that bulkhead right now is kind of in the middle of the pool. What we will do for practices is we'll move that bulkhead up toward the diving area, and so there will be enough room for the divers to practice, and then we would practice on the 25-yard pool on there that's below the bulkhead.
Okay, so the depth of the pool going from the top of the picture down to the bottom it
goes from deep to shallow as you go down.
So the top of the picture is the deep end?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think they're looking at 12, I don't remember the final numbers, but it'll be 12 to 16 feet deep.
Oh, wow.
So there's actually going to be a 3-meter diving board in this pool.
Okay.
Which you don't see at a lot of the pools, but because we have a college team, and 3-meter diving is one of the events in diving.
Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out where that 3-meter board came into play.
Yeah, it'll be right in the middle.
Okay.
So there'll be plenty of depth there. And that's actually the competition side of the pool. So for practice, we'll move that bulkhead up towards the diving boards, still giving them plenty of room to dive, and then we'll have 25 yards on the other side for our practices.
Okay.
And then for competition, we'll move that bulkhead towards the shallow end of the pool.
Okay.
A deeper pool is more competitive than a shallow pool. So the starting blocks will be by the diving boards on the top end of the drawing there.
So then during competitions, we'll still have that brief delay where when we're switching from swimming into diving, we do still have to have time to take the lanes down and take the flags down, which isn't that big of a deal. You're talking 2 minutes.
Right.
So 4 to 5 minutes to get it torn down and set back up
Yep.
at the beginning and end of diving. And that obviously gives us the opportunity to do the fundraising stuff, like we do chuck a duck in the middle of the meet. So the deep end is actually the left side of the pool when you're sitting in the stands,
Right.
and the shallower end. The depth of the shallow end going to be the typical 4 or 5 foot depth, 3 feet.
No, probably 3.5 feet.
3.5, okay.
So it's shallow enough for younger swimmers to comfortably
So we can still
swim.
do the comfortable stuff with the swimming, the classes and stuff. And then during the day, obviously, if they need to do some lap swim, they could do that on this
Shallow
case,
end,
the shallow end. Or if they're doing classes in the shallow end, they could do lap swim on the deep end.
Right.
However you want to do that.
Yeah, it offers a lot of flexibility for usage.
Now, you said that the one thing that you kind of snuck in there was a deeper pool is faster.
Yes.
How so?
Well, there's a lot of turbulence during a race, and as that turbulence goes down and hits the shallow end of the pool, it actually comes back up, and that affects body line and stuff for a swimmer. And so in a deeper pool, that kind of disperses more, and you don't get the turbulence off the bottom of the pool.
Interesting. Because, when you think about the pool records that we have currently, obviously with the different pool, we're going to be setting new records for a long time. But there's some of those records that are from 1977.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, was it Avery? I think Avery Rogan this year that broke one of the girls' records.
Right.
That was awesome. That was so much fun to call too.
Very cool.
And see that happen. So that was neat. And obviously those aren't going to transfer over as far as the pool records are concerned. But the school records, were most of our school records set at Heritage as well?
Usually, most often those records are set at a section meet, which would not have been at Heritage. But if the section meet is at our pool, or
right. So section meet, conference relays. What's the process to get us involved in doing those things to be able to host them?
Well, that's something I'll have to find out. Because I've never looked into it because our facility's never been ready to it for that kind of meet.
And I know that, for example, the Grove is where we go for all of our conference stuff. Mm-hmm. They've got the biggest pool, they've got the biggest setup, and the head coach over there, I don't know what Lynn does as far as helping organize that, if she's got assistants that take care of that. Being involved in the baseball side of things that I've been involved in and watching tournaments get organized, I know how much work goes into organizing a big event like that.
Yep.
So I have to imagine that even though they might miss out a little bit on some of the income, having one of those meets not be at the Grove, I would also think it might be a relief from a stress factor for them, obviously added for us.
Right.
So what kind of volunteer needs are you looking at once this new pool is being built? Have you thought about that yet?
I have, and we actually talked about it a little bit at the banquet, our swim team banquet, that once the pool is up and running, it takes a lot of volunteers to run a section meet. You have to have concessions and getting lane ropes in, and getting programs and ticket takers, timers, 8 lanes times 2 timers per lane. That's 16 timers. So there'll be just a cleanup after the meet takes quite a while.
Exactly.
So it'll take a lot of help, but it can also be a fundraiser because of the concessions
and when we do fundraisers for the team, it helps. I mean, it pays for the banquet at the end of the year for the swimmers, which is like $10 for food. But it takes care of the shirts, the jackets, like the warm-up jackets, the team suits, caps, stuff like that. And those things add up. I mean, suits aren't cheap.
Right.
For an actual racing suit, you're talking $30, $40.
Not a lot of material, but
there's not. But
more like $50 to $60.
Is it $50, $60 now? I haven't bought one for a while. Thank goodness Brent hasn't grown much to need a new one. But when you're still talking $50, $60 a suit, and you got 30 swimmers, that's $1,500. You're talking $3,000. That adds up quick.
It does.
And you wouldn't think, like for baseball's, because I go back to that because I know it, just for one season, you're talking almost $2,000 in baseball. So you're more than that for one season for suits. And in high school, let's be real, the boys are growing. So they can get a suit this year.
It's not going to last.
It's not going to last.
Season, and then, one season per suit. all you can reasonably expect.
Right, and then you add to it the chemicals. The chlorine eats away at that material, so you're getting new swimsuits for the guys almost every year.
Every year, yep.
And so you're talking over $3,000 in expenses there every year. So you need the volunteers for fundraising. You do the conference or a section meet, and hey, your next year's stuff is paid for, which is awesome. Banquet. Let's circle back around to the season. Our first meet this year was who?
We swam. I'm trying to remember.
I know.
Hastings.
And that one, if I remember correctly, was close for a little while.
Yep.
And unfortunately, then they kind of pulled away.
Yep. They got a very strong team.
They do. And I'm friends with a number of the parents, with their swimmers, and saw a lot of updates on how their swimmers improved. So they're going to be really strong next year too, which is difficult. I know we did lose that one, and then St. Thomas was next.
St. Thomas was a
little later.
South St. Paul in between there, which was our first win.
Okay.
First win in 2 years, so we were really excited about that.
Awesome. And we got 2 wins this year, right?
We did get 2 wins this year. We beat both South St. Paul and North St. Paul. So.
Okay, so we beat both the St. Pauls. Right. So we had the 2 wins at the North St. Paul and South St. Paul. Yep. St. Thomas is one of those that you go in and you hope you're competitive.
Yep.
You want the guys to have a good showing. You want them to watch and learn. St. Thomas and Hastings and Sibley have been, again, perennial powerhouses for swimming. And they just, I think for simplicity, they get the numbers.
Yep, they do.
And obviously St. Thomas being the private school that they get, unfortunately, stronger athletes sometimes too. Then who am I missing? Tartan,
we finished the season with Tartan.
Yep.
It was a close meet as we anticipated. We thought we might be able to win that one, but they just had some really strong swims and ended up beating us.
Yep. And diving. Now diving, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Was it 3 years ago that Andrew Gotham decided to?
Yep.
He's like, Coach, I want to dive. And you're like...
Yeah, we had gone without diving and just gave up the 13 points for that event and just didn't have divers. So
yeah, and 13 points in a meet is a lot.
It is. It's hard to recover from that kind of deficit.
That addition of diving really added the ability to be competitive.
Yes.
And when you look at the scores of the 2 meets that we did win, they were close enough that not having those 13 points, we might not have won.
Yep, absolutely.
So Andrew Gotham decides he wants to dive like 3 years ago. What was he, 7th grade or 8th grade? I think.
He might have been
8th grade. 8th grade.
Yep.
So he's our first diver. And he does actually surprisingly well for the first year of being a diver.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden other people started going, I can do that.
Right.
And now, this year, we've got Zach Lau's a freshman.
Yep.
And
who dove as an 8th grader too.
So he dove last year. Zach being the freshman this year, so we've got him for another 3 years.
Yep.
And now who am I forgetting?
Martine.
Well, Martine was Martine and love. Oh my God, the kid cracked me up every time we'd get up and dive. He just had this funny looking smile, like you knew he was just enjoying it. And had a blast with it.
Yeah, he was a foreign exchange student from Spain. Had tried wrestling, got injured. Like December, said, "Hey, I'd like to try diving," which is like right in the middle of the season. All right, let's see what you got. He said he had done some platform diving,
yes.
in which high school diving is off a springboard.
Completely different.
It is very different.
You would think it wouldn't be, but
first meets, he was very tentative in his approaching down, but he just really improved. It was really satisfying to see him do that.
Still, the first complicated dive he did at home off the springboard, he was just like all like flailing around, and I'm trying to announce the scores, and I'm almost in tears laughing because he gets out, he just has that like, I tried look,
exactly,
and and he knew,
right,
and everybody was having a good time with it, and Martine was awesome. But I thought we had a third, because Martine, being a foreign exchange student, could not compete varsity. Has to be by state high school league rules. Has to be on JV.
Right.
So his scores don't officially count. But
we had another diver last year, Francis Smith.
That's who I was thinking.
Wasn't able to do it this year, so hopefully next year he'll be able to join us again.
Yeah, because I'm like, I know I'm missing a third local student here. So diving has really added a lot of things. Then we move on to the banquet, or it's a section meet, sorry. And how many people did you have that was their first time section meet?
First time. I didn't count that, but we must have had, let's say 5, 6, 7 guys who never been at the section meet before. So that's
So
really
7 or 8
exciting.
guys that
Yep.
got their first letter in swimming.
Yep.
Their first time ever going to the big show
Right,
for the,
right.
the meet.
Yep.
And I mean, that was the first time I'd been there. It's
exciting, isn't it?
It was exciting. And not only that, but I cannot believe the talent in the section. And just looking at some of the swimmers they have, I'm going, how's that guy a freshman?
Yeah.
How's that guy in 10th grade? Like, wasn't one of the swimmers from the park like a 9th grader that finished second in I think a 50 free? I was just like, what in the heck?
Yep,
Where'd this guy come from? So, we have some relays that obviously, they medal because the top 8 medal, and when you have relays, because of the weather issues this year, we didn't have the weeding out day, I guess you could call it, for the prelims, and you just went straight to the time finals. But they only had 8 relays, so all 8 would medal. And the thing I didn't realize, and maybe you can explain this better than I, is there's 2 different ways you can make it to state. The top 2 automatically go. But if you beat a certain time, more people could go.
Yes.
You don't have to beat the time, because we had a number of races that the times were not beat to make it to state, but the top 2 automatically go.
That's right.
So am I missing anything there?
Nope, that's exactly right.
And that threw me for a loop too. I was like, okay, so if you can swim under 21.97, I think was for the 50.
Right.
And I'm like looking at it going, okay, so you're just like 4 seconds off the world record pace.
Well,
Realistically, that's fast. Or you can be the top 2. And unfortunately, we did not have anybody move on to state.
Nope, not this year.
How did Zach do in diving?
Zach took 6th, and the top 4 divers go to state.
Okay.
So we're very hopeful that next year he'll be able to crack the top 4.
Which would be awesome.
It would be.
Then we move on to the banquet. The banquet, obviously, the end of the year, held at one of the churches locally. And the boys just have a good time having dinner. And the captains, what are the captains' awards?
They're a lot of fun. The captains try to come up with a little awards that honor the different swimmers in kind of a funny and special way, just kind of pointing out their little idiosyncrasies or little humorous event things that have happened.
The things that make them memorable as an individual.
Yep.
Is really what I take it. And I cannot remember the swimmer's name. How the boys were sitting around talking about doing the awards, and they realized they had given him the same exact award this year that they gave him last year.
Right.
And then they changed it. And it's always fun to see the captains come up with these things, because it is a captain's responsibility.
Yep. They get to see the other swimmers and light that I don't as a coach. They're seeing them in the locker room.
Right.
They often go out to Arby's after a meet and have a good time. So there's a lot of camaraderie on the swim team, which I appreciate and encourage. And I know for me, when I think back to high school, that's what I remember the most. Just enjoying the time with my teammates, and the relationships,
and that can make a huge difference when it comes to winning and losing too.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes handling the losses so much easier. And it makes the wins so much more special.
Right.
Because if it's with a group of guys that you care about and want to be around, it just makes a win that much better.
Well, it makes practices more something you can endure.
More tolerable.
That was the word I was looking for. Because practices are hard. We're 2 hours of hard training, and if you're not getting along with the people you're with, that makes it even worse.
Well, and I think about 2 years ago, the Mike Valerio.
Yeah.
So, funny story about this whole thing was, Mikey came to the conference relays, and he's like, "Oh, it doesn't look too bad." Now, Mikey is an offensive lineman, starting offensive lineman. He was an offensive lineman for the football team, and he's now in college as an offensive lineman, and he's like, "I could do that," and I was just like, "Yeah, whatever, dude." And he's like, "No, seriously, I think I'm going to do it."
Yeah.
And he came out and had a blast.
Yeah.
Loved being on the team, loved being around the guys. really heavily considered coming back to swimming his senior year. But in talking with the different coaches and different recruiting side of things as far as college was concerned, his coaches felt that he'd be better off focusing more on the weight side of things, which I get it. But I remember, didn't he lose like 20 pounds just from swimming?
He was great. Actually, my favorite Mikey story was the first time he got in, and he swam down and back, which is barely starting the practice, and this is a 275-pound guy.
Right.
He erupts out of the water, and he goes, "This is harder than anything I've ever done in track or swimming, or track or football." And then just put his head back in and went going.
He didn't quit.
He didn't quit.
He didn't quit.
Such a good influence.
But he acknowledged just how difficult this training is. I mean, Brent will lose 15 to 20 pounds every year for swimming. And it's one of those things like, dude, just if you keep swimming throughout the summer and keep active throughout the summer, you're not going to have that up and down on the weight. You're not going to have the, oh my God, I'm so tired, for the first couple weeks. Because I think it was Jen and I were talking, who does the timing and helps when I'm announcing, does all the scoreboard and the stuff in the computer. She had said, by the time the boys get to the sections, that's when they're finally in shape.
Right.
So imagine if they came into the beginning year like that, how much better they'd be at sections. So the challenge is keeping them active over the summer, and this new pool hopefully will help with that.
In fact, we want to run a summer program, but we're not able to do it this summer. Just found out because they're going to drain the pool as they've done for the past 5 or 6 years, just to save money, which the reason the Heritage Pool is being replaced is it leaks and the pumps are inefficient, and so they can save $25,000 in the summer by draining it, which I get at a fiduciary level, but as a coach and wanting to give opportunity for my athletes, it's like
over 10 years, you're talking 250 grand. That's significant when it comes to. I mean, that's almost a budget for like half a teacher.
Right. And they looked at repairing Heritage, and it was going to be $2.5 million just to repair an old pool. So
and to repair, not to upgrade, to repair.
Just to get it back to what a pool should be.
Right. Versus the $8 million that was, obviously roughly invested for this new pool. You're getting a significant upgrade with this new pool. And that'll be an awesome thing for the community. It'll be awesome for the team, for the school, and I really hope that we can see more people come out and watch. Not only just from the community, but from the student body. Hopefully we can get the student body out for that. Final thing, the final thought process that I have, or kind of road I want to go down, is back to the recruiting side of things. What makes it easier for you? What helps you with getting more people involved in swimming?
Well, certainly the visibility. And not only at the middle school or the high school level, but little kids coming in, 3rd, 4th grade, coming into a really nice facility, seeing the Henry Sibley logo up there, seeing this great competitive environment, and thinking, wow, I want to do that someday.
Right.
That's really what will be key for us. And
that'll be huge. The other thing is, when's the Summer Olympics coming out?
What is the next one? 2020,
2020.
We always get a little bump.
Right? Because I remember when there's an Olympic year, we probably get an extra 10 or 15 swimmers that join. So far, not a lot of them have stayed because they realize just how difficult it is. But it does pique their interest.
Yes.
So when it comes to, when you have the younger kids and they're watching these events and they're talking about this, watching the Summer Olympics, if they want to get involved with the swimming, absolutely encourage them to do so. But more importantly, encourage them to stick with it.
Right.
Because the health benefits of staying active are huge. And even throughout conversations being on the Parks and Rec board in Hastings, we talked about swim lessons, just swim lessons in general. If, as a community resource, when you have the swim lessons going on, that's actually a benefit for the community because it helps save lives. Think of just the lack of drownings because kids know how to swim. So when I say I was thrown in a pool as a baby, I'm not lying. My aunt was a swim teacher in Hastings, and before I could walk, I was swimming. and I loved it. I had a blast with it. I was referred to as a fish all the time because you couldn't keep me out of water. And I think that kind of transferred genetically to Brent because he's the same way.
Right.
So when this new pool is built, get your kids out, get them signed up for swimming lessons, even if they're just, yay big and they can't walk and can't crawl yet, because we can move in water. And it's a good way to teach, water safety and whatnot, and then hopefully build for you down the future. Hopefully we have you for another 20-some years yet.
I don't know if I have 20 years left, but
I mean, you got to hit the 50 mark, right? Anything else you want to say or go over before we take off? Because we went way past the time I expected.
Having a good time. So, hey, just thanks to the community for supporting our schools and for funding a brand new facility. I'm so looking forward to getting that up and online, and get your kids out, get swimming, right? This is the land of 10,000 lakes.
Right, absolutely.
Don't want anybody out there who feels uncomfortable around water.
Exactly.
It's a great source of exercise.
And if you have any questions regarding the swim team, you want to talk to Greg about getting somebody signed up, or maybe help with some of the sponsorships of getting some of those, the uniforms paid for, your email address for the school.
Yep, Gregory, Gregory .Schmidt, SCHMIDT at ISD197.org.
And I'll throw that in the comments on the YouTube video once I get that uploaded. Thank you so much for coming out and being my guinea pig with this.
I enjoyed it.
This is pretty cool. Like I said, a lot longer than I expected. I mean, we did start recording at 9:30 and it's 10:20. But we had a lot to cover with the new pool, and that was one of the big reasons I wanted to have you come out, was to talk about that, and because I know you. I've known you for a number of years, and I enjoy talking with you, and I figured this would be just kind of a natural conversation. Next week on the 16th, Alana, is it? Alana Lucio Thomas is the girls track and field coach. She will be with me here at Amore Coffee next week about 9:30. I'm thinking we're going to have issues with this live streaming, so it might be a record and then send it to the cloud later. But that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for your support and tuning in. Thanks again to Amore Coffee for hosting us here. We greatly appreciate the ability to be here in this wonderful location. Come on out, check them out, amorecoffee.com. They've got awesome breakfast items, and of course, if coffee's your thing, they've got delicious coffee, or mine, water. Until next week, see you, bye.